See?
Brews and Banner Podcast. Banner Podcast. Brews and Banner Podcast. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Brews and Banner Podcast. I'm your host, Rob G. And with me, as always, is the Legendary Brew Crew. What up, fellas?
I was reading this weekend. Mama.
Nah, it doesn't taste like dirt. My name is Lou Belgium, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm wondering, does Delaware have an actual culture?
This is the podcast that we talk about beer, but we also talk about a lot of things that's happening in the world. Politics, movies, anything really that comes to our mind while we're here sampling these brews. Grab a drink and pull up a chair.
Ooh, we love you, Brews and Banter Podcast.
Oh, yeah. Hey. Hey. Yo, why you play the part with? You should have just played the part with Delaware in it.
Absolutely, that's what I was waiting for.
Me too. I thought he was if you were gonna play that,
You don't know a award tour to go to Delaware. Who does that?
right?
Yeah, well, we're the first state, so that makes sense. I never found no anything wrong about what he said. I was like, yeah, as you should. That's what I said.
Yeah,
When he,
right.
Award tour though. What awards you getting in Delaware?
It don't matter. It does not even matter. We on the map, baby.
we the first state. That's what I mean. I don't understand. Everybody should come to Delaware at least once.
Everybody
get to-
does. You get to another state.
It doesn't matter how they get here and what they doing here, man. Why aren't you from here?
Nah,
The hatred in your heart seems like you moved from Maryland or something.
Nah. I ain't from here. I just be here. You know what I'm saying?
You just be here.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I don't even know what that means.
I be here all my life.
Yeah, I guess whatever works
All
for you.
my life been Paul.
Kind of familiar to been here.
What up? Welcome to Bruising Banter Podcast, where the topic is the rocket and the brew. Well, that be the fuel. And I'm your host, Rob G. And with me, as always, the Legendary Brew Crew. What's going on, fellas?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Did you say hello?
Hello.
I may have, but I don't think I did. I didn't want to,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure how it came out to you guys. But in my mind, it was hello.
They said, what that mouth do? Hello.
This is episode 228 of Bruising Banter Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I'm glad you found us on these
Hi.
podcasting airways.
Yeah.
And if you're a returning listener, thank you. Thank you for coming back. We always ask everybody, if you're coming through, make sure you smash that like button, rate, and review, all that good stuff. And that's it. We got a great show for you this afternoon, this morning, this evening.
As
Whenever-
always.
Whenever you're listening, we have the world-renowned New York-based photographer that most people may, especially beer drinkers in the world, know. He does his storytelling behind the camera of a lot of people's beer journeys and all that good stuff. So without further ado, we want to bring in Miguel Rivas to the podcast.
Hello, fellas.
Welcome.
Good morning,
welcome.
afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening. How y'all doing?
I appreciate that. That's
All right.
familiar.
I don't know. Did I get the last name right? How do you pronounce your last name?
You got it right. I grew up in Latin America and South America, so I have that R thing. So I say Rivas.
Yeah, I don't know how to roll the R, so I couldn't do it.
But you got it right.
Yeah, I figured with a rolling of R thing, I knew I could.
You can't roll your R's at all.
We've already had this discussion. No, nah.
Try it for us again. Come on, Rob.
I should have had you
Do it. Rob,
when
come on, Rob.
When Ruffles had ridges, I could not do it. So I was not even going to try.
No problem. That's all right, Rob.
But we thank you for being here. But before we get into why you're here and all that good stuff, we always like to know what everybody is drinking on. So
everybody going to share, or I share first?
What are we drinking today? And we always start with the guest. So Miguel, what are you drinking today?
Well, since this was a special occasion to be with y'all here, so I brought something a little special. This is from Brewery De Ranke in Belgium.
Oh,
Right.
Man.
So this is their Hand Brewing, which is like a Flanders red. It's a sour brown ale kind of thing. So I figured open it here with y'all.
oh, nice.
Like a sour brown ale type of thing, like a hybrid, like a mixture.
Well, it's brewing. It's a brown in Flemish, I think, and it's like an aged brown ale, but I don't want to get too much into technicality because I know that you have a lot of like beer people in here, so I don't want to like butcher this. But it's a sour beer.
It would have been fine.
Yeah,
It's a little sour, and I can tell you right now after I taste it. But usually that's like the description. It's a sour brown ale. We're gonna see the.
That thing
See
purrs.
the color.
Yeah, that's nice.
I want some. Can you pass it through the?
So that's what I will be drinking. Cheers to y'all.
Cheers.
What's the ABV on that, Miguel?
Yeah.
This one says 5.8. So
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Miguel about to drink that whole bottle today, boy.
Damn, that is sour.
It is
Like my palate was not ready for that. I was just drinking coffee before that, so that just hit and puckered.
Wow.
Damn. It looked good though.
Yeah.
Is it still?
This would have been a good beer for Thanksgiving to pair with like the cranberry sauce.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us know if the flavor profile changes over the course of your interview, like as it warms up or whatever. Yeah.
What about y'all? What are y'all drinking?
That's why I keep out my axe.
All right, Lou. All right, Lou. What you drinking on?
Because it is officially the holiday season, I'm gonna try to do some holiday beers throughout the rest of our year here. So I have Yoda's favorite brewery, Victory, the Merry Monkey. I'm being sarcastic. Yoda doesn't like Victory sour. He doesn't like Victory sours. I think you would like this one though, Yoda.
Because they don't like Victory sours. It's just one sour that I
right. But it took you like a year or two to get over the fact that they make different sours than the one you don't like.
That's true.
Yeah. So, but this one is called the Merry Monkey. It's a Belgian style ale with cranberry, orange peel, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It says, "And to all a good night. This Belgian style holiday ale combines the beloved flavor profiles of the Golden Monkey with notes of cranberry, orange peel, cinnamon, nutmeg to deliver the delightfully smooth finish. Perfect for merry gatherings with family and friends." Rob, I have malts and hops. It's Pilsner and roasted malted barley malts, and the hops are Cascade and Tetnagang.
Gang.
But yeah, this is what it looks like in the bruising banner, which is available on sale if you guys want to purchase it. That's what it looks like, and it has a lot of cinnamon in it. I can taste the orange peel. Not enough cranberry to say it was cranberry in there, but the nutmeg, like it does taste very, very festive, very, very 'tis the season, and its ABV is 10.0%. So yeah. That monkey is gonna be merry.
Yeah, it sure is.
I would definitely pass me another, but I would advise to have just one.
Absolutely.
Maybe have just one. But if you want to have more than another, be at your home or call an Uber.
Right, because that's heavy. That ABV.
Yeah, but it's delicious. It's really good.
All right, yo, what you drinking on?
So what I'm drinking on is from that I'm holding in my left hand. It's from nothing.
Do you always have to do that?
I feel like you gotta hold don't even let your right hand touch it. You gotta open it with your left hand. You gotta crack the thing open, right? Pour it in your glass with your left hand, all that stuff, right? Because from Left Hand Brewing Company. And this is their peanut butter milk stout. So as you see, there's peanut butter chocolates on there, like kind of like your Reese cups, but you know we can't say that they're Reese cups because we don't know for sure. It could be a
they can't say Reese cups. They can't say Reese cups, but
yeah, they can't say. But I'll say that looks like a Reese cup.
It does.
And so this is rich milk chocolate notes teamed up with peanut butter, perfection for a delicious dark duo, right? And this comes in at a 6.2 alcohol by volume.
You said it is a stout, Yoda?
Yeah, it's a milk stout. Peanut butter milk stout. And this is what it looks like. So it's, you know, your dark stout has, and the flavor profiles, I guess really when you drink something with peanut butter in it, it's hard to like get out of that realm, you know what I'm saying? Because peanut butter got that very distinct flavor to it. So you taste everything they're saying, the chocolate and the peanut butter in it. So this is good. This is good. This is really good.
It's like a Reese cup.
Yeah, it tastes like a Reese cup with some alcohol in it.
Alcoholic Reese cup.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
pass me another of these.
I actually went to like.
And by the way, you can get these glasses as well. Let us know if you want one. Okay, just hit that DM.
I actually had that on tap at Left Hand. That was delicious. That was a really well done.
It probably tastes even better on tap.
I'm sure it does, but just I remember that one specifically. So that was a really good choice that you got there.
Yeah, it's hard for me to even sip it. I just want to go.
Just want to eat it.
Yeah,
Rob, what you got? What you drinking on this week?
I actually got from Alvarium. I think that's how you say it. Alvarium Beer
with
Company.
An A.
Yeah, Alvarium Beer Company. It's called Cruising. It's actually a collaboration between them and Crafted Crew out of Connecticut and the Unknown Beer Clothing Company. Yeah, Unknown Clothing Company. It is a fruited lager with peach and pink guava. It's called Cruising.
I'm in.
It's only 4.8%. As fruited
Definitely
lager.
In. Yes.
So it does have a guava and pinkish peaches color. And
how come we didn't bring that with him?
Yeah, he definitely left that at the house.
2 days, 2 days, Lou.
Oh yeah, right. That's true. You had 2 chances.
Right.
I was sitting in my refrigerator. It was in the back.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
Right.
In the back for us.
Yeah, because I got this one. I got this when I went to
up in the
air.
Changing air.
So it was in the back of my supply.
Okay.
So there it is. So
I feel like that wasn't that long ago. So
I was saying the back of his supply sounds like a barrel and flow August type of thing, but like you went in. Didn't you go in November?
Right.
Wasn't changing air in November?
October. But I've had a lot of beer. I have a lot of beer in my refrigerator. I've had Wilmington Brew Works. I've had all the beers from
Connoisseur.
So it's like a lot of beers in my fridge, and sometimes they get pushed in the back. Plus, I still got the beers from our beer bash in the front, so it was stuck back there. A lot of beer happening around here.
Rob, it's so funny. I'm trying not to watch, but Miguel is over here struggling with the sour.
I'm just getting my palate adjusted. Oh, but it's tasting good though. As you get it in.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not a beer that you're gonna be like, going to on a hot day and gonna be drinking like a whole thing. But right now, I don't know where y'all in Baltimore?
We're in Delaware.
Okay, so it must be as cold as it is here.
Yeah.
So this is a good sipper beer. I was just reading the back of the label, and it's a blend of their young, and then a 2-year-old barrel age old brewing. So it's like a blend, and as it starts to warm up, it starts to get all that character flavors from the barrel, a little bit of caramel. Oh yeah. So
okay. Oh, so you're working with it, Rob. What was the ABV?
I like how it's evolving over the course of these sips that he's taking.
Yeah.
You said the ABV on yours was a 5, Rob?
4.8. So yeah, it's like 5.
Yeah. So that's
what's the rating? What you doing with it?
Let's pass me another.
It looks good and it sounds good.
It looks delicious, bro. That looks really good.
definitely can taste all the peach and the guava. So it's definitely different. As a lager, have a fruited lager. I don't drink many fruited lagers, so I was like, oh, this is something different. So shout out to Crafted Crew up in Craft Crew. Sorry, Craft Crew up in Connecticut and Alvarium. Because this was their collab, so they had it at the festival. So shout out to them. Got it in my little glass. There it is. Banter.
Yo, let me ask you this though: is the guava flavor stronger than the peach?
For sure.
I was gonna say because normally when guava goes, it has such a very distinct taste to it. Like it's hard to go around that too, unless you're putting a bunch of shit over top of it.
But peach is like the normal fruit like equivalent for his like taste for me and guava. Like that's a really good combination to put together.
Yeah, but you can definitely see that
the guava overshines it.
Yeah, you can definitely taste the more guava. There's some peach notes on as it sits on your tongue. But when you first sip it, it's like, hey, I'm pink guava, I'm here.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we want to get into this conversation and know more about the BeerTrekker project, how Miguel got into photography in the first place, and then transitioned to the beer photography as well. So, without further ado, Miguel, we want to let you know. We want to know who you are, how you got to where you are, and how they always say, the proverbial floor is yours. So, once again, welcome to the podcast, and let us know who you are.
Yo, is he cloudy to you too? A little bit.
Yeah, it's a little. Yesterday was super sunny. Today it's just cloudy, and it's going to be raining later. So it's a good day to be hunkered in.
Yeah,
we can hear you good. We can hear you good though. That's all that matters.
Well, thank you, y'all, for the invitation again. I appreciate it, and glad to be sharing some beers and some stories with y'all. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. My name is Miguel Rivas. I was born here in the United States, but I grew up in Venezuela, and I moved back almost 30 years ago. Moved back, and I've been in New York for a little over 20. And I started let's get a little bit of background. So project is called the BeerTrekker. It's a project that I started 10 years ago. And I put together three things that I'm passionate about: photography, traveling, and beer. And I started traveling around the world, visiting breweries and documenting it. I was more focused on the documenting part of the people behind the beer. And a little background of that, how do I got into photography? I didn't study photography. I learned self-taught. I've always been curious about photography. I've been a fan, hobby. And years back, in 2005, I was working at a record label here in New York, a world music record label, and I was doing the press. I was in charge of the press, publicity, events for the Latin American market. So of course, since I was doing the press, I could make myself press passes and go to a lot of shows. I had a lot of access to shows and music. So I started taking advantage of that and started going to a lot of the shows. And I was like the liaison between the artist and the label. So I had a lot of contact with the artist. And I started taking advantage of that, going to all the shows that I could and taking my camera. And I used to shoot a lot in Central Park here in the summer in New York. They do a lot of free events in Central Park and Prospect Park. They do all these free concerts in the summer. It's amazing. And the music that captured me the most was the African music. And I got to meet a lot of the artists from Africa, especially the ones from Western Africa, Senegal, Mali. And I became good friends with a lot of these artists. And so I started taking my camera and taking pictures. And I remember at one show in Central Park, I used to see this older gentleman there, one of those guys that that's a pro. He had like 3 cameras hanging, different lenses.
Right.
And I was there with my little camera just taking pictures, but I would always talk to him because he seemed like he knew what he was doing, and he had been doing it for a long time. And I remember one time he said something that to me at the time when he said it It didn't make any sense, but later on I understood what he meant. And what he told me was that we don't take pictures here. At first, when he tells me that, I'm looking, I was like, "What this crazy old dude talking about? We all have cameras here. What are you talking? We don't take pictures."
He got 3 of them.
And he said, "No, we don't take pictures. We capture moments." And I was like, "Huh, okay." So I had to let that sink in for a while until I understood what he meant, and especially that kind of photography, music, live music. You cannot just be there and ask the guy, any of the bands, "Hey, hold on, just hold it there, hold up." No, you can't do that. So you have to actually capture a moment. So he taught me a little bit the ropes of, the unspoken etiquette of being in the pit, which is, you pick a place and you stay in your place and you learn how to shoot from there. Because if you start running around from side to side, can you curse here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
You're going to fuck up people's pictures. If you start running from side to side, you're going to mess up other people's pictures. So you have to be respectful of that too. So pick a place, stay there, and shoot from there. And then, you have to learn, if that artist in particular doesn't like to walk around the stage and he doesn't like to stay here and you're all the way at the end, then you're fucked. All the pictures are going to be, like that. But just find a place, pick a place, and work your magic from there. So, I learned a bunch of stuff in there. So going back to the photography thing, to the beer project. So when I started doing my project, I wanted to focus more on that type of photography, of documenting and telling stories of the people behind the beer, not only just the owner or the brewer that everybody sees, like anybody. And for everybody who's into beer and understands about beer, there's a lot of people who think, and I shit you not, there's people who think that beer comes from when you pull the faucet out of the wall in a bar. People think that the beer comes from there.
I
And
can believe that people think that.
And it's okay. It's a matter of, you have to understand and learn, like everything else. Some people are ignorant about certain topics. Is the same thing with this. So for me, that I have been involved in this for 10 years now, I have seen a lot of the process of the beer from the ground, meeting the farmers who grow the barley, and then the maltster who turn it into malt, and the brewers who turn that into beer, and the farmers who grow the hops. So I have been to all these places and work with these people closely. So it's for me, it was very important also to tell those stories, because usually that's not the people that you know about when you're drinking a glass of beer. You don't know, for the most part, you don't know who are the farmers who are growing those hops. More importantly, not the farmers who are growing the hops, the people who are harvesting the hops. I have experienced hop harvest for the last 4 years in Yakima, and I got to say that's some of the most grueling jobs I've seen, because they only have 40 days to harvest the whole season, and they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 40 days, because they have to get that hop. They have to get them out. Otherwise, if they're passed, then it's no good anymore. Right. So it's a lot of work, and as you will imagine, a lot of the people who work there are a lot of migrants. They come from Central America, from Mexico. Some are like seasonal workers. They come, do the harvest, and they go back to their countries. But some stay. And for me, that I was able to work there with a couple of the farms that I went there, I spent the whole week, and they gave me like a camper inside the farm, in between the hop and the hop yards. I would just wake up at any time of the day and just be in the middle of the hop field. So I got to, and because I speak Spanish, it was very easy for me just to have conversation with all these people. And at first they will see me, and I've had this thing where in the United States, until I open my mouth, I'm not American enough, even though I was born here, but I have an accent. So after I open my mouth, you're like, "Oh, where are you from?" Right. "I'm from the United States." "Oh, but you have an accent." "Yeah, but I was still born here." Right. And then in Latin America, they don't see me as I'm from there either, because like, well, but you're very white, and I don't have much hair now, but I used to have like blondish hair. My beard used to be like red, and people were like, until I open my mouth and speaking Spanish, they're like, oh shit. So it's always been like I'm in the middle, and that was kind of like the looks that I will get from all these workers in the farm. They will be like looking at me with my camera, and then I'll start speaking to them in Spanish, and they'll look at each other like, "You speak Spanish?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I speak Spanish," and having this conversation with the people, with all them, and I will learn so much from them. Some of them have been working there for 27 years, and it was just very eye-opening to see the amount of work that goes behind all of this. And again, it's just for us to have a glass of beer in a glass, but there is so much work that goes behind that it was pretty amazing. So that was kind of like my idea from the beginning. I wanted to find all these stories, and then of course, after 10 years, you get to meet a lot of people in the industry. I have created a very big network of industry people around the world. That's how I met Rob at CBC. This year, was it this year or last year?
Yeah, it was this
year. Yeah, that was this year we went. Wait,
in Nashville.
Yeah. So that was this year. It was just earlier. It was just earlier in the year.
We only been to one CBC.
I know, but
this was my third. This was my third. Okay. But my second one working with the Brewers Association.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell what the project is about.
I have a question about you spending the week in the hop farm. Your story is the pictures, but is this story written? Is it in a magazine or online anywhere, or do you tell the story to a writer, or is it just your picture, a documentation?
So again, because I've been doing this for so long, I'm not a writer, even though I have written some pieces every now and then. I don't consider myself a writer. So I also started meeting a lot of people in magazines. Back in the day, there were still magazines that were specialized in beer. Not anymore. A lot of them have closed or have just gone extinct or just go all online. But I met a lot of editors from magazines. So what I will do is I have a really, really big bank of images of, you name it, of anything related to beer and beverage. So I started just creating this bank image, and then I will contact the editors from these magazines or publishing companies, or even ahead of time when I knew that I was going to be traveling somewhere, I will let them know, hey, I'm going to so and so places. In case you have any story or something coming up, I'm going to have material, and then they will contact me and I will provide the pictures. But specifically for this trip in the farms, I was working directly with the farms, with the family. So they will hire me to document pretty much the process, and then they get to use these pictures for, they write pieces in their own blogs, in their websites, or they send it to magazines. A lot of the pictures that I took on those trips were highlighted in the Brewers Association. They have a magazine that comes, I think it's quarterly, called The New Brewer. So a bunch of those pictures were featured in there with stories that somebody wrote, or with specific topics that they were talking about, like crop and very technical stuff. But I still have all of that material. So I don't know. It's something that people always ask me, like, what are you going to do with all those pictures? Are you going to write a book? Are you going to do something? I don't know yet. I don't know yet, because I still have so many places that I want to go. And I feel that, I still need some more material to make it.
Miguel, I see volumes. I see volumes and compendiums.
I have thought about that too. Yeah, I don't know. So the answer is I don't know yet what I'm going to do.
One book of your photographs doesn't seem like it'll be enough.
Well, it's like a coffee table book, right? Like a coffee table joint where you
like 1,000 pages though.
You
Yo,
could, but
yo,
I don't know. I'm in that sense, and people have told me this a lot, and I'm sure you have heard this a lot as well. In life in general, it's like nothing is ever going to be perfect. Just fucking do it.
right,
Yeah,
right.
it's
I'm
true.
more
It's
of
true.
a I have to make it look like perfect, and that's always been like it's not been a good thing. So
Yeah.
sometimes I just have to like let go and be like, fuck it, let's do it.
Right.
But it takes a while for me to get there.
So in your mind, is it one just big book, or is it a bunch of smaller books in your mind?
Well, here's my thing, because I have traveled a lot, and here in the United States, yeah, we are like kind of like the uh, innovators when it comes to like new styles of beer. The craft beer movement started here in the United States, started here some 40 years ago, blah, blah, blah. But beer is as old as civilization, right?
Right.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
there are still places that, like one of the places that is on top of my list, and I still haven't been able to go there yet, is Africa. Like I want to go to Africa. And even though there's a lot of countries there that, don't drink, because of religious beliefs. But there's still fermented beverages. Like, for example, in South Africa, there are some fermented beverages, not necessarily beer, but it could be a style of a beer uh, that I know of these, and I have tried some of these here in the States, actually. Um, but it will be amazing to find the people who actually make it there, or go to Western Africa and meet, with the folks over there as well and see what they're doing. So for me, learning about those stories and being able to capture that will be more interesting for me than going and having a book with a bunch of all these like hype breweries that are in the United States.
Right.
They're all the same. They're all in
Okay.
the commercial complex. There's nothing, like I just spent a month and a half in Brazil a couple of months ago, and just traveling around Brazil and visiting all these places. I saw beautiful breweries that are like nested in the middle of nowhere, and they're like a farm, and it's just like a husband and wife and their family running that. Those are the kind of stories that I like to tell, and then they're visually more beautiful because they're not in a warehouse. It's actually nature, and you're learning about processes that they're doing, and it's something unique, right? So I think I'm still holding on to like a little more of that content that I want to get to make it more round.
Yeah, Miguel,
Because
let me know if you ever need to hire like a bag boy or something.
Listen, 3 of them. If you need 3 of them, because I feel like Miguel has like 3 cameras. No, Miguel has 3 cameras now, so we all each to hold one of them.
all right,
Like, just bring 4. I want to go to Africa and Brazil for a month and a half.
Well,
I want to see a natural brewery.
I know there's definitely one in Nigeria. I saw, because I think I follow one in Nigeria. There's a brewery, a craft brewery, I think in Nigeria. I believe.
Isn't a woman? Is a woman's own brewery in Nigeria as well? I think.
Maybe.
I think, but that's not the same one. I don't know if we're talking about the same one.
There's so many stories and so many places out there that we don't know, because here in the United States, for better or worse, we're a little pampered. Like, how many breweries are right now in the United States? There's over 10,000 breweries just in the United States alone. That's a shitload of breweries.
Yeah.
Whereas, people here are, again, because they have that aura of they are the innovators, people are not looking outside of their bubble. So what else is out there? So when I come from my trips and I talk to friends, brewers here, and I start telling about all these places that I saw in Colombia, in Peru, in Ecuador, in Brazil, they have no clue. They have no clue about this brewery. Oh, I didn't know they existed. And then they try the beers and they're like, God damn, they make that shit there? Yeah, they make that shit there. It's even better than yours.
Right.
Yeah.
But you just don't know about it. And it's like that everywhere. It's like that everywhere. So I feel that, at least for me, that the people who have been following me for all these years, they use a lot of what I say. I have created some sort of a trust with these people, because I don't go there. Like, I never set out to go and visit every brewery in the world. That was not my thing. For me, it's more about quality than quantity. And I try to go to those places that have a story, or they have something special or unique,
Right.
That can be whatever is a different meaning for you than for me, but something unique is something that captures your attention. And for the most part, I think I have found like a niche where I found these places, and people seem to react the same way that I do. And some people, when they're going to travel, I always get messages from followers like, "Hey, I'm going to Brazil. I'm going to so and so," and I let them know, here are my recommendations, or I saw this on one of your posts. Is it worth going? It was worth for me, but I don't know what's worth for you. So just go and do it. Just go out there and explore. That's
what country has that you've found has the best of these natural breweries, or just breweries in general, like outside of the states with our 10,000? Like, which ones? I know Brazil is one, and you said another country, but where have you thought?
I'm going to say this because that's a hard question. I would say this, that there's always interesting places everywhere I went. Everywhere that I've gone, you're always going to find something interesting, because at the end of the day, it's not about so much about the brewery, it's the people behind it. And this is an analogy I always use. Also, when I travel, I do talks. And this is an analogy I use in my talk that I say to brewers, because we are in the brewing industry, but this can apply to anything in life, I guess. But I tell the brewers that 30% of your job is making the beer. 30%. The other 70% is educating your consumer and creating an experience, because that's the only way they're going to come back. Right. You can make the best beer in the world, but you give them a shitty experience, those people ain't coming back, and they're not going to tell anybody about your brewery either. So when you create a good experience for them, a unique experience, whatever that is, you're going to remember that. Because I heard this one time in a podcast, and people are never going to remember what you tell them. They're always going to remember how you make them feel.
Right, that's true.
And that is a fact.
Yeah.
So
like
when you create,
he was listening to our podcast when they said that.
What was that?
He said you're listening to our podcast when you heard
that.
Well, maybe, but I find that to be true. And when you create those kind of experience for people, they're going to go back and they're going to tell their friends, their family. So they're telling one or two people, and those people, if they come and they have the same experience, they're going to go and tell two more.
Right.
That creates a domino effect. You're getting free publicity out there just for being a good human being, and creating an experience for somebody.
Because I hear you, sometimes you talk to people and ask with any, not just breweries, but like they go places, they be like, "Oh, you know what? I had a good vibe." That's the first thing they say. They had a good vibe, and then they tell you about the food or whatever they have. About the
and if like, the food was good and it wasn't a good vibe, you don't normally hear about it.
Right? Yeah.
You're right about that.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it can apply to any industry. So it's the same. You just create a good experience for someone, and you already have like 50% of the battle won right there.
Yeah.
And
Miguel,
it doesn't cost you much.
Miguel, you talk about how cookie cutter American breweries have been over the last couple of years. Is there any brewery that's a natural brewery in your mind that stands out, that's in the States?
Oh, for sure. Like one of my favorite breweries in the world is in Texas. It's called Jester King.
Okay.
I don't know if you all heard them.
I've never heard them. No.
They've been around for like 12 years, 12, 13 years. They're in the outskirts of Austin, what they call Hill Country. So it's like a 25, 30 minutes outside of Austin. And it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of nowhere. They specialized when they started in Belgian style beers, farmhouse, saisons, those kind of beers. Now, of course, pandemic hit, and everybody has to survive. It's a business. You're not running a charity. You have people, you have employees that you are responsible for. So they started also making IPAs and started canning their beers. They had to do whatever they needed to do to survive, but they still make those beers that they started with. And to me, that's a beautiful place. It's open air, it's a farm, and over the years they have also seen how Austin is growing. So they bought, I think it was 165 acres all around the property just to preserve. So they don't have a bunch of condos built around.
Oh, right.
So they just
that's
have
very hindsight.
and preserving the land. And it's a beautiful place. You know, it's a beautiful place. I've been there. It's in Texas. So, you know, whenever I'm in Texas, I always make it a point to just go there, spend the day. This year, I was actually lucky to spend a couple of days. Now, because they have the land, now they bought some houses, so they have like 5 little Airbnbs that you can stay right next to the brewery.
Yo, they geniuses, yo.
Yeah, they do it the right way. That is it.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's I explained this a few times in some of the podcasts I've been invited to. But for me to be able to do my job, as I was saying earlier, for me, it's not about going and visit every brewery, right? And so I have a set of, let's call it, I'm not going to call them rules. Let's just say there are a set of parameters that I look for when I decide if I go and visit a brewery and take pictures of the brewery. So number one, they have to have a story, because that's the only way it's going to make it at least easier for me to be able to tell that story with my pictures. Number two, they have to have good beer. Number three, they have to be good people. Like, I don't care how much of a good beer you think you make, but if you're a piece of shit human and you treat people wrong, then I'm not interested. I'm out. And then, you know, they have to be involved in some sort of like with their community, because at the end of the day, that's something that we have lost here in the United States with all these breweries around. Is community, that sense of community. At the end of the day, when you go back in time, every little town in Germany, in Belgium, and in the, you know, Eastern European countries, they had a small brewery in their town, in their village, and that was the brewery. You will go there just, you know, to meet up with your friends and talk shit, talk about sports, talk about politics, talk about whatever, vent, because bartenders are also therapists. So you vent all your shit out. But that was it. It was a sense of community. And then you will go back home, go back to your home and do your thing. And we have lost that a little bit here, because now everybody's about selling. And again, I understand it's a business and, you know, you have to do what you need to do. But we have lost a little bit that sense of community where people go and get together and, you know, just have a beer or two. And again, now you see all these people making all these like imperial pastry and marshmallowy styles that are 15%. How many of those can you drink and then leave there and function?
Right.
Not very much. So when you see that kind of culture in places like England, for example, the pub culture, all those beers that you drink there are like 4%,
Or
3.5%, 4%, 5%. You can have 3, 4, 5. And you live with a little, you know, a little buzz, but you still can function. And you go back home and you go on with your day.
Belly. That's it. It's just a belly sitter, but it don't make you.
But nowadays, you go into a brewery here and you have a tap room with 20 lines, and they have all IPAs, triple IPAs, 9, 10%. Like, I don't drink IPAs. I never liked them. So it's always for me a problem when I walk into a brewery and I see the 20 draft lines, all IPAs. All right, I'm out.
Yeah, have a good day.
There's nothing there I can drink.
If I want to go into a brewery and it's all IPAs, I'm out too. Like, I don't want all IPAs. Like, I'll drink, I'll try one, but like
even the IPA fans should be disappointed.
Yeah, to me too.
Like, everybody should be disappointed in that situation.
So. But Miguel, when you're finding these places, what you're doing research on them first before you go? Because I'm trying to figure out how you know somebody's a shitty person before you get there.
How do I do what?
How you know somebody's a shitty person before you get there?
Well, again, you know, back in the day when I was starting, I didn't know much of people. So yeah, I was just like doing research, sending out emails out of the blue, and then people will respond. And now after 10 years, like I said, I have created a network. So usually, I don't know if you find this to be also true, but when you try to look for people who have things in common with you, right? So if you consider yourself a good person, you're going to also get together with people who are kind of like you. Right. And then they're going to refer you to also people. So I don't think I'm not going to say has been perfect, but for the most part, it's been like smooth sailing, that I have met a
Right.
lot of like great people in the industry,
Okay.
and they have all been like recommended by, oh, this guy came here. And again, after 10 years, I have become friends with a lot of these people, like friends
Right.
that if I go to this place, I stayed at their house. And, we have that for me has been also the most important part. Not only about going to the place and visiting and taking pictures. For me, it's been more about cultivating those relationships. That's the hard part. Because I could just go to a brewery, take pictures, and then I'm out and I leave. They don't hear from me again. That's fine. Anybody can do that. But for me, the hard part has been cultivating those relationships. And again, like everything else, any relationship in life, with some people you click, with some people you don't. With the people you don't, that's fine. You go your own way, and that's it. Life goes on. But with the people that I have clicked and we have had things in common, I have made it a point to nurture those relationships. And after so many years, and again, you become friends. Like a lot of these people, not all, but a lot of them that we have become friends.
Yeah.
Like I know their wives, I know their anniversary. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. One time I sent one of these friends a text message in the morning. It's like, hey, man, happy anniversary. It's like, dude, I totally forgot about it. You saved my ass. I have to go and buy her some flowers or some shit. So,
That's funny. That's funny.
No, that's not. That is horrible.
hey, man, it can happen. You can just
Yeah.
have things in your mind and you forget. You're gonna get a
You got a
you're
friend
gonna
that
get a
saved
whoop
him.
ass when you get home, but
And look, he didn't because of Miguel. He did definitely have flowers and something else ready for his significant other. That's what's up.
Miguel said that, man. Like,
Now you kind of walked it through how you kind of discovered the storytelling and photography and stuff like that. But when did you come to it? Was there a specific shoot or something that said, "Hey, I want to do this all the time"?
Take
Like,
pictures,
was there a specific
take
moment
pictures.
that I want to tell the story behind the scenes of the brewery? Is there like one particular brewery that you were at and you were shooting and you were like, you know what, these are stories I want to tell. Like, when did you really decide that this is what you want to start the BeerTrekker project?
okay. So again, I grew up in Venezuela. So in Venezuela, we didn't have a very big beer culture. We had like a couple of industrial beers, like the Budweiser from here, usually like lagers, industrial lagers. So that's what I grew up when I was of age of drinking, trying, that one beer. So that's all I knew about beers. Right. But I remember when I was 15, around 15, I went on a trip with my grandfather, and we went out to the country to visit some family. My families are from not the capital, but out in the country in other smaller cities. So we went out there because he had some business to attend with other relatives. And I remember one afternoon we were in this farm. They were all playing domino, and I wasn't. I was just like hanging around the farm, and they were all drinking this beer, this blonde pilsner, and there was like a cooler. So I opened the cooler and I saw a bunch of black cans in the bottom that nobody was touching. So I grabbed one and I read it, and it said Bock, like the German style Bock. Yeah. And I look at it and I ask people, why is anybody drinking this? And it's like, oh, that's shitty. Nobody likes that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to grab one. And I asked my grandfather, can I have one? And he just looked at me. He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I grabbed one. I was advanced for my time. So I opened it and I grabbed a plastic cup and I poured it. And when I started pouring, I saw it was coming all black. And I was like, what is this? And in Venezuela, we also have another drink that is not beer, but it's made with like the wort. It's called Malta. I don't know if you try that. Malta.
Yes.
Which is very sweet. So that when I saw that, that's immediately where I thought, oh, this is Malta. And I tried it, and it was not Malta. and it had alcohol, but you had, that style of beer is like roasted malt. So it had this very like coffee notes and chocolate and very like charred malt. And I'm not going to say I loved it, but for me, it was like, oh, this is beer. So I saw that, okay, beer is not only blonde, it's not only like this fizzy yellow thing. So, okay, so that stayed in my head. Years later, when I left Venezuela and I moved back to the United States, that was in 95. I was 20, and I moved to Boston.
Mm.
And in Boston, I had just arrived there, and I had a cousin who lived in Vermont. So it was around the holidays. It was around this time, Thanksgiving, that I moved back here, and Christmas was coming. And since I had just come back from Venezuela, I was not going back for Christmas. So it was either staying in Boston by myself, or my cousin said, "Hey, why don't you come up here, spend Christmas with us?" And I was like, "All right, fuck it." So I drove up there, and one afternoon I was in her house, and her boyfriend at the time, he was going to school for chef. He was studying culinary institute over there. And he came home with a pack of beer, a 6-pack of beer. And he said, "Hey, let's try this beer." So these are some guys that go to school with me. They just open a brewery, Magic Hat.
Ah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
So they had just opened the brewery. So he brought this pack of beers, and it was, I remember clearly, it was English style IPA. I didn't know what the fuck that was because, again, I grew up, I just had come from Venezuela, and I only knew one beer, two. And as soon as I opened that bottle and all those aromas of hops started coming in, I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And the first swig I took, I was like, "Whoa, what is this? What is happening right now?" So that was like my first experience with a craft beer or a different style of beer. So after that, I moved to Miami. And in Miami, back in the day, there was no beers. So if you wanted to drink anything exotic, you will have Heineken, Corona, Presidente. That was like
This is like 20 years
exotic.
ago. Miguel, this is
This
like
was
20 years ago.
1996.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
So I moved to New York in 2002. And one of my younger brothers, he used to work at a French restaurant here in New York. And he was telling me about even before I moved here, he was telling me about all these beers that he had in his bar. They were from Belgium, and they were made by monks in a monastery. And I was like, "What? I've never heard of that." So as soon as I got to New York and I went to visit him at his restaurant, I said, "All right, let's try this fucking beers from the monks." And the first beer he gave me to try was Orval. That was game over for me. Orval, I don't know you know that beer. Y'all know that beer? So these type of beers are called Trappist beers.
Right.
Trappist beers are the beers that are made in the monasteries. There's, I think, today there's still 13 monasteries in the world that makes these beers. 6 of those are in Belgium. So it's just a beer made by monks, or at least that was the nice story. And they have to be made within the confinements of the monastery to be able to have that Trappist seal. They don't make money out of these beers. I mean, they sell it, of course, but it's not for profit. So all the money that they get, at least those are the requirements to get the seal. So all the money that you get is to fix anything that needs to be, pay the bills, get whatever things that you need at the monastery, and then any residual it goes to charities. So those are some of the things that this you need.
Miguel, can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question. Is there Trappist beer is always made by monks in one of those 13 monasteries?
So back in the day, yes, but again, it's been happening for a long time. So a lot of these monks have died, and no new monks want to make beer anymore. So they have to hire a brewer. But they're still inside a monastery, so they're still monks.
But if
all the monks make beer.
So if you buy a Trappist beer, it's from out of it comes from out of a monastery, or it's supposed to.
It should be.
Yes.
Okay.
And you will see it has a seal like Trappist. So there are very famous ones. There's one called Chimay. I don't know if you heard of that one. So Chimay, Orval, Rochefort. There was one that at some point it was called the best beer in the world. It's called West Bletten and Westy 12. So all these beers, and they're pretty heavy beers. Usually are like quadruples, so they're like 11, 12% beers. Delicious beers though. So those were the beers that I first tried when I got to New York. So I tried the Orval, and then I tried all the other Trappists that he had there. And for me, that was a game changer. I was like, wow, this is amazing. These beers are delicious. I love them. So for 10 years here in New York, I started trying any beer from Belgium that I could get my hands on. I was educating my palate, learning about all these beers, just tasting. Fast forward 10 years, 11 years, I decided I want to go to Belgium and I want to go visit these monasteries where they make this beer. So in 2013, I went to Belgium for a week. I rented a car and I visited all 6 of the Trappist monasteries in Belgium. I was a tourist, so I couldn't get in. But I still drove to all the monasteries, and on the outside, I just took pictures. For the most part, these monasteries, because they have to sell the beer. So usually, across the street from the monastery, they have either a shop or a bar where they sell the beers. You can drink them there. I have tried most of them here already with my brother, but it was still fun to drink them there.
Absolutely, yes.
And then while I was there, I said, well, what the fuck? Oh, this also happened while I was there. I was posting some pictures on my personal Instagram account, and we're talking about the early days of Instagram.
Right.
I was posting all these pictures in my personal feed. And after a couple of days, I started getting messages from family members and friends like, hey, man, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm in Belgium. I'm drinking beer. Like, yeah, exactly. Like all the pictures that you're posting are beers and stuff. Are you okay? Do you have an alcohol problem? And I was like, you know what? Fuck all of you. Like, I don't need to be giving explanations of what am I doing with my life. So I created this account, the BeerTrekker, and it's implicit in the name. So if you're gonna follow, this is all you're gonna see and all you're gonna get.
Right. Miguel, so did
he did that because of his family.
You're right. Did the beers taste different? Did the beers taste different from when you had them here versus when you had them in Belgium?
I'm gonna say no, realistically, but I'm also gonna say yes because maybe it's a thing. It's just in your head,
Right.
And also how the beer travels. Remember that all these beers have to come from over there. They come by ship, and you don't know what conditions they get here. So having them fresh over there is definitely different. But you will only notice that is if you have trained your palate, right? Of having drinking these beers and understanding the beers. So 5 years later, after that first trip, in 2018, I did a trip I wanted to go back where it all started, to Belgium, to celebrate my 5th anniversary. But I said, you know what? If I'm going to go back, I don't want to go back just for a week again. So I really planned this trip, and I went for almost 7 weeks, and I visited 11 countries.
Man, you lived there. You're a resident at that moment.
Absolutely.
So on that trip to Belgium, I was invited to Orval and Chimay and one of the other Trappists in the Netherlands. I was invited inside the monastery to go and take pictures, and that was amazing to be able to take pictures in there. But it was also heartbreaking because there was no fucking monks making beers. So all this beautiful story picture that I had in my head, I was like, where are the monks? Oh, they're praying. They're praying in the monastery.
No monks brewing at all?
No. But again, we're talking 50, 60 years later. So again, maybe the monk who was making the beers, he died, he retired or something. Actually, the brewmaster of Chimay that I met him, he was a French guy. And I asked him, and he said, I'm retiring next year. And I said, okay, how long have you been here? 46 years.
Oh, man.
46 years he was the one making the beers there. And
he's not a monk. And he wasn't even a monk. Wow.
Well, but
I feel like it was so much. I don't know. It feels like it was so much investment in beer making and how it helped them keep their monastery running that they would have just made another monk say, "Hey, you're gonna do this."
But you have to understand that again, they've been doing this for a long time. Like the culture in Belgium and Germany, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years. So you can understand that maybe.
That's why I would think the traditions was
how do you switch it?
Like what monk said no? Like what generation of the monks said no? Did they make it to heaven? Did they get to heaven? Like not beer. They didn't get the beer heaven. I know that. I know they ain't drinking beer.
All the monks still drink the beer. They just don't want to make it because it's a lot of. I don't know if you have been to a brewery, but it's a lot of fucking work working in a brewery.
I do. But when I think about monks, I think about kung fu and praying. And if that's all
they do the praying. I don't know about the kung fu, but they do the praying.
It depends on the region. It all depends on the region. Some of them kung fu. But I figure you got some time. You definitely have some time to do something else.
No, that they wanted to free up their time to do more praying. They wanted to do more praying.
Absolutely.
It was like
they asked me if I wanted to stay one night or a couple of nights. I said no, because you're not going to stay there you're not going there on vacation. Like, you're going to do the same shit that they do. And you have to wake up every day at 3:30. That's when praying starts. And then they do like 7 prayers during the day. I was like, no, I'm good.
Where's the brew section? Can I get to the brewery section? I'd rather brew the beer.
That they took me, and I went, and they have all state of the art, especially like those big ones like Chimay or Wild. They have all like state of the art equipment because they are producing a lot of beer and they are selling it worldwide. So yeah, they have a pretty big infrastructure. There was one trap.
Are they still nonprofit? Are they still, everything goes back into just fixing the monastery? Or so the brewers
that's a requirement.
Do those brewers get paid? Do those brewers, since they're not monks, will they get paid?
I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'm sure they do. And that's part of the
expenses. So
exactly. That's an expense. Paying somebody, that's part of it.
That makes sense.
That's probably why they don't do it anymore, because the brewer, when it's a monk, probably don't get that money.
But then you can keep it all in house. Like, now they losing money. They losing money now.
But that's the thing.
No, they cover everything they need to pay. Any expenses is covered, but any excess, it goes out to charities and stuff.
So now that extra expense goes to the brewers and then to the charities.
There was a Trappist brewery here in the United States. It was in Massachusetts, and they just closed.
Yeah.
Oh man, do they have any monks at the monastery?
They had, but
they're not making beer either. Are there any monks?
That was one of the places I didn't get to visit though. But I remember that when they were building it or constructing the brewery, because the monastery was already there, but the brewing part, they actually brought the folks from Chimay to come in and kind of like oversee and kind of like do all the consulting part. To build it like that, but I think it was last year.
Any monks in the world that are making beer left? Are there any left?
I met one in the Netherlands. It's called La Trappe, and it was funny because again, I'm getting all this tour, and I'm seeing no monks, and then I see a monk walking out of a building and walking somewhere. It's like, I want to talk to that guy. Like, this is the first monk I want to talk to him. And the guy who was giving me the tour, he was like the sales guy. And he's like, oh yeah, let's go and talk to him. He's actually pretty cool. So we follow him, and he went into the shop. So the monastery has like a little shop where they sell all the beers and all the stuff, t-shirts and all that. And so I started talking to the guy. He introduced me. And at this time, I used to have, my beard used to be much longer, like down to almost my belly.
Wow, yeah, really
long ass beards, CC top kind of, CC top kind of thing. And I had that. It was that long back then. So as soon as I walk in, the monk, this is very like clean cut dude, white hair, very tall, and he's just looking at me the whole time. He's looking at my beard, and we're talking. And then he asked me, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from the United States." Donald Trump? I'm like, sure, yeah. And I was like, oh, this motherfucker has a really twisted sense of humor. And he started laughing. And then we keep talking. And at some point I asked him, so do you make beers? And he said, well, when I was a young boy, I used to make beers, but I'm tired and I have no more patience for that. I'm like, okay. So he was making beer. I don't know if he was making beer there at the monastery, but he told me he was making beer. And then I asked him, can I take a picture of you? Because I want to get a picture of him. He said, you'll take a picture if you're with me. I'm like, no, I'm the photographer. So I'm usually behind the lens. So no. And he's like, okay, then no picture. I'm like, okay, so you want a picture and I have to be, all right, can I take a picture with you and then I take a picture of you? Okay. So I gave my camera to my friend who was giving me the tour. And I'm standing next to this dude. And he's just looking at my beer, and then he leans over and he's like, do you mind if I touch your beer? I'm like, okay. And he just grabbed the beer and started pulling it. And my friend's taking all these pictures. So I have all these pictures and I'm just cracking up and the guy just pulling. And then the guy's like,
I'm glad he asked you for your permission first. That was
yeah.
Well, he
And
ain't say
then he said, do you want to be a monk? I'm like, no, I'm good. He said, you look like a monk, like you have no hair, you have the beard. We need young people like you. I'm like, nah, I'm good. But thank you for asking.
He
He was like,
you. He recruited you. He saw something in you, Miguel.
yeah.
It's like that man has talent. That man has the talent. I see it. Wow.
That was a fun day.
Because it's probably a bunch of younger people that don't want to be involved. And
yeah,
so
hence less monks brewing, because it's not enough to even want to actually be monks.
Because even though
it's a commitment, you know. They have very
it's less nuns out here. Yeah, it's
very specific type of life, very secluded. Like they don't have a lot of contact with the outside world. They're inside. You have to be like a hermit kind of thing, you know. Like they pray 7 times a day. They go eat. There's a lot of downtime. So it's not a way of life for everybody.
Yeah,
you know, you have to have a very specific type of personality, I guess.
And then with social media, you seeing what like all the devastation in the outside world. So like, as a young man, would you think your prayers are going to help? Whereas back in the day, without social media, you're like, oh, my prayers are going to help this world. Like Gandhi did it the right way. Let me do what he's doing. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
Gandhi's the most famous monk, huh?
Is he a monk? I don't even know. I just say Gandhi.
I thought he was. Yeah, I thought he was.
I just threw that out there.
Huh. I'm curious to know, like you said, you want to go to like Africa and do pictures like that. Besides Africa, is there another place that has beer culture that you have not gotten to that you want to explore as well?
Or where specifically in Africa too, because they got a lot of countries there. It's not just one place.
Well, for me, just culturally, because I have met a lot of people from there, and I have a lot of very good friends from there. Like I said, Western Africa, all that part, like Senegal, Mali, the Ivory Coast, all that area. But you know, anywhere that I go, I will be. There's a beer competition that's getting a lot of reputation now. It's in South Africa though, but it's a big beer competition. I think it's the only one, and they only work with African breweries, so it's very like local.
Yeah.
I'm also a judge, so when I travel, I sometimes go to beer competitions. So this last year, I wasn't invited, but that's a competition that I would like to go just to have the experience, and then while I'm there, just travel. But it's a big ass continent. So just moving from all the way in South Africa all the way to the north, that's a long ass trip. I just saw that in Brazil.
More than 7 weeks. That would be more than 7 weeks.
Yeah. In Brazil alone, it's just a country, but it's so big. It's almost as big as the United States, and you don't realize that. Like you see it in the map, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that shit's big," but you don't realize how big it is until you're there. I was there and just traveling from. Again, it will look very short or close distances, but I did a lot of like bus. And I went from Rio to Sao Paulo, which is two of the big cities. It was like 10 hours, 11 hours by bus. And that's just one way. So you spend a lot of time on the road, just doing the travel. And I didn't get even to scratch the surface. I went to like 3 of the big cities, but and every region that you go is different. Like you go from Rio to Sao Paulo, completely different. Then you go to the center, Belo Horizonte, which I also went, completely different. But then they have the Amazons, which is like in the jungle, all the way in the north, or you go all the way to the south, and it's completely different. So it's that was a pretty eye-opening experience. That was the country that I always wanted to go, and just having the experience to go there, and it was amazing. So you were asking what other places, like Brazil.
Yeah.
If I had to write something about them, it will be they are the sleeping giants. And when those motherfuckers wake up, it's going to be game over.
Yeah.
It's going to be game over, because there is so much stuff happening over there in terms of like the quality is there, the passion is there, and they have everything. They have everything that they could make it work, like local fruits and local ingredients.
Right.
So it was very exciting. But again, every place that I've been, there's a magical place that I have found. Like in Colombia, for example, I was in Colombia. I've been to Colombia like 5 times now. And last year or the year before, I went down there and I went to Medellin for the first time. And I met, I have a friend, several friends who have breweries, and they took me because, they take me to some unique places. Let's call it that. Some unique places.
Why we calling them unique? What's
Well, no, because I could say special, but that could be very, let's just say unique.
Yeah, unique.
So this place is the hood. It is the actual hood, and it's called La Comuna 13. And La Comuna 13 is one of the biggest. But when I'm saying hood, I don't think here in the United States we understand that, because if I say hood to you, that's going to be a very specific thing. So have you heard of like shanty towns?
Yes.
In all these countries, like favelas and all that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that kind of hood.
That's what they drove through in Bad Boys 2 or 3, whatever that was.
Yes, something like that, but that was Hollywood. So this is the real shit.
Right. Absolutely.
And but this place, back in the day, like in the 80s, this used to be one of the most dangerous hoods in the world, because that's where all the people from the cartels were hiding. These were just like hideouts. So this specific place in Medellin, called La Comuna 13, there was like let's call spade a spade. It was like a genocide that happened there. During the Bush era. He got in with the president of the time in Colombia, and he just said, I'm going to give you military, I'm going to give you weapons, I'm going to give you the airplanes, the helicopters, and we're just going to bomb the shit out of this place to get all those motherfuckers out. But by doing that, it was collateral. So they killed a lot of innocent people that were just living there. They just happened to be living there. So a lot of people died. And there's still, you can see this. This was like over 30 years ago, and that's still shit. It's still there. Like you can see it. And I went to this place with my friend. So the people there, they just said, well, you know what? We're not going to keep like dwelling over this shit 30 years later. Like we're never going to evolve if we continue doing this. So, all right, let's do what we need to do. So they converted that place as one of the most touristic places now in the world. So all the Instagram people who want to do their fucking Instagrams and their reels, they go there. So they're capitalizing on that. So they do tours. Some people say it's morally wrong. Well, it's not like nobody's exploiting them. The people who are giving the tours, they live there. So they're getting money inside the community. They're getting money in. They have all the artists there. So they have some of the most amazing graffitis. The whole place is full of graffiti. So they have local artists that can go and do that. People go take their pictures, but then they go to the gallery and they buy a postcard, or they buy a picture of the graffitis. And so they're leaving some money in there. They have restaurants so people can eat. So, you're getting some local money for the locals as well. Right. And the guy that I went to, he has like a school there. So he also teaches the young kids. But the amazing part for me was that at the top of the hill, there's like this little bar, and it's run by all these young guys that used to be in the guerrilla, in the cartels, that they just left and they didn't want that kind of life anymore. So what are you going to do? All these people that's all they did in their life, kill people, kidnap people. Where are they going to go and find a job? Like, put in your resume. What did you do before? Oh, I used to kill people. Okay, you're not hired. Right. So how do you insert those guys back into society? Right? So it's a big fucking problem. They did, unspeakable things, horrible things, but some of them, they had no other choice. I'm not saying that it's the right thing, but some of these people had no choice. It's either do that or we kill your family. Right. It's that kind of thing that you have no other choice. But they got a second chance in life, and now they want to leave that kind of life, right? But how do you reinsert them again? So there's like a program there where they're starting to teach all these guys skills and labor, so they can go and be mechanics of this. And one of the skills they're teaching them is to make beers. So there's a couple of breweries that is owned by all these ex-paramilitary guys, ex-cartel guys, that they're making beers. So they have this bar on the top of the mountain, and we went up there and I tried the beers, and it's not the best beer in the world, but it's fucking good. But the whole story of the guys, that they're trying to do this from all the younger guys who want to leave that and they have nowhere else to go. They kind of bring them in. All right, well, you're going to start here, like, washing the kegs and all this, and we're going to teach you how to do things. So then later, you can either do your own business or you can go and work somewhere. So I thought that was a pretty cool initiative that they have. And again, the people were so real, that's real life shit that you're seeing there. And because we went with a guy who's local there, we got to go inside the houses of some of these families. And a lot of them, they don't want to talk about it because why would you want to talk about these atrocities that happen? But some of them are very open, and you can see it. Like, you can be walking on the street, and the wall was untouched, but you can still see the fucking big holes like this of the bullets and things like that. It's just like a reminder for them to never let that happen again.
Right.
Do you have any choice to say anything else except the beer is good? I think you have to say the beer is good, right? That's why.
No, they ask you, and they want your honest opinion, because that's another thing that I feel that
they're reformed, Rob. They're reformed. They're not into like.
No, they were super cool, and when they saw me with my camera, they will ask me, "Oh, can you take pictures of us?" And they get all like very happy and posing and doing shits, and it was a lot of fun. But to me, it was very eye-opening to see, because these are the kind of places that you usually don't hear about, and that's never on your itinerary. Oh, let's go to the hood for tourism. Like, that's not something that's on your list.
Right, that's true. Yeah, I say that there's a story that you told that story, and people now be like, "Hey, I'm gonna check that out when I go to Colombia," or because you said Medellin. That's where
Medellin. Yeah.
All right. Huh.
Colombia.
Learn something every day.
I mean, Colombia just sounds scary to me, period, because all the stuff that you just see on
Nah, man, it's Latin America. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful place to go. It's like everything. Yeah, you have to use common sense. For me, like this time that I went to Brazil, I have family in Brazil, and they were like, "Oh, be careful! Don't do this, don't do that." I'm like, okay, I understand, but I grew up in Venezuela, right? So I know what happens, and you just have to have common sense. That's bottom line is that common sense. Like, you're not gonna go and get into the most dangerous motherfucking hood just to go and take some pictures and do some reels, because no, you're gonna get your ass whooped. That's just how it's gonna be.
I mean, I guess that's the same thing in the States too. So
yeah,
absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I think it's also about your energy, right? And you go into places like I was going to all this place over there, and I didn't have a problem, and I was just having fun and learning about all the places that I was going, everything that I was seeing. Like, they have Ubers there, but with motorcycles. That was one of the most scariest shit I did, especially in Rio, because it's faster. You get from point A to point B super fast, but those motherfuckers, the laws of driving rules, they do not apply to them.
Right.
So you are just in the back of a motorcycle with a guy. They give you a helmet though, so security. So you get your helmet, and you just ride in the back. And they go in between cars. There is just like nothing. Yeah. Like the red light, that does not exist for them to just go. If there's too much traffic, they go on the sidewalk and then they jump back into the street. Then when we were going into the highways, I was just like, I asked the guy, "I'm gonna hug you. I'm not gay or anything. Don't worry, but I'm gonna hug you." So I was just like grabbing the guy and just like this and just counting, like, make this shit fast, make this shit fast.
Right.
But it was a trip, and I remember on one of those trips, I was like doing some video and I put it on my reels. My aunt saw it the next day. It's like, "Are you crazy? How the fuck did you get in those motorcycles?" I was like, "It was fun. I thought I was gonna die like 10 times, but it was fun. I did it. I'm not gonna do it again." But it was an experience.
It's a good time. Yeah, it was a good.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, as I guess through the BeerTrekker, has there been one experience or something that was more eye-opening that you didn't even expect or know as your journey has been going on in these places? If there's one place, is there one thing that really stood out? Like, wow, I had no idea that this was even something.
Well, that experience in Colombia was eye-opening for sure. I only been to Asia one time. I went to China, to Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
That was also very interesting, just to see how different life is compared. Because here in the United States, again, we have, it's not a perfect country by any stretch, but we are, I'm going to say, we are used to certain luxuries that a lot of the world don't have, and sometimes we take for granted here.
All right.
So when you go to these countries where they have literally nothing, and you see like, oh shit, like I don't have it that bad. Actually, I don't have it bad at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So seeing those things are, at least for me, it makes you appreciate a lot more the very little things that most of the time we take for granted. And another thing that I found very interesting, and I learned this when I was at the record label, is that at least at that time for me was music. And I learned this a lot with the African musicians, because a lot of the, I speak French a little bit because my ex-partner, she's French, and we were together for 11 years. My two daughters speak fluent French, so kind of understand French. So when a lot of these countries in Africa, some of them, they speak French. That's the other language. But when they were speaking on like their local dialects, I didn't understand. But there was a thing with music that you don't need words. You just feel it.
All right.
And one of the musicians that we became friends is from Mali. He said, music is the universal language. You don't need to understand the lyrics. You just need to feel it. And I learned that because on the first show that I went to see them, they were doing a tour here in the United States. It was called Acoustic Africa, and it was 4 musicians. It was Habib from Mali. There was this lady from Senegal, another musician from South Africa, and there was another one I can't remember right now. So the 4 of them were together from different parts of Africa, but they were together doing this tour and touring the US. And the first show I went to see them here, they played at BB King's in around Times Square.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking pictures, walking around taking pictures. And at some point, I said, you know what? I'm missing the whole concert because I'm walking around taking pictures. So I'm just going to put the camera down, just going to sit. So I just leaned back against the wall. I was just like crouching there. I'm looking and just listening to the melody of this music. And at some point, I just started bawling. I just started crying for no reason. I just started crying, and I started looking around, and my partner, my ex-partner, she was there. She was looking at me. She was asking me, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't know what's happening." Then at the end, she asked me, like, "Why? What was wrong? Was something wrong?" I said, "No, there was nothing wrong. I don't know. Emotion. There was so much emotions that I don't know what came up to me, but that's what happened. That was my reaction, and it was because of the music. That was it. Just the music. I couldn't understand the lyrics, but I could feel the music."
Mm-hmm.
And years later, that Habib came back to New York, and he was playing in Prospect Park. And one of my ex-partners, her sister, was here. She was in New York for vacation, and she came with another friend of hers, French too, and she was a photographer. So I said, "Oh, Habib's going to be playing in Prospect Park. We should all go. This is an amazing concert, and you as a photographer, you're going to have a lot of fun because these musicians are very lively and they're amazing to taking pictures." So we go, and she was taking pictures, and at some point I was getting in between the rows. I like to get in between the rows and just crouch and take pictures from there to get a different point. And at some point I found her in the crowd, and she was doing the same thing. She was like kind of crouching, taking the picture, and I'm looking at her with my lens. She puts the camera down. She did the exact same thing that happened to me some years before. She could understand a lot of the lyrics because she's French, so she could understand the French. But the other ones, I don't know, probably she didn't understand either. But she put the camera down and she started bawling. I started taking pictures of her. And then at the end of the night, when we went back home, I'm editing my pictures on the computer, and I call her and say, "Hey, come here, I want to show you something." And she came and I showed her one of the pictures and she was like, "Oh my God, how did you do that? Like, how did you see me?" I was like, "Well, I was also taking pictures. I saw you, but I want to ask you, what happened to you there? Like, what was happening to you right there?" And she said, I can't explain it. It's something I can't explain. I said, "But you understood the lyrics?" And I said, "Yeah, I understood when he was singing in French, but he was speaking in his dialect. I didn't." And I said, "And I don't know. I don't know what happened. It was a feeling. I just started crying." And I told her that same shit happened to me a couple of years ago here in New York. So I just wanted to confirm that I was not crazy,
Right.
that this shit happens and it happened to you. So, okay, good. And that to me, that was like very powerful. Just something that you don't have to necessarily understand it, but you can feel it.
You could feel it, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that I went to the World Culture Festival in DC, and that's how it was there. It's like I didn't understand none of the music they was playing because it was like from all over the world, and but you can definitely feel it. And once you see the people that know what they're saying, that actually knows what's going on, it's like, damn, they feeling it, like, and it makes you like feel all crazy inside. So it's like I get that. I get that can happen.
You know, it's when you're hearing a beat or a tune that you just want to start dancing.
Yeah,
Not necessarily you're not paying attention to the lyrics or what they're saying. You just feel it. You just want to makes you want to move. Same way you can touch something that it will make you cry.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
That's interesting. Now, but before we let you go, I'm curious to know how many countries have you been? Have you? How many countries have you been to?
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I want to say over 20. I haven't counted them, but I'm going to say over 20.
Over 20.
Probably more.
When you stop counting, that's a lot.
Right.
Well, if you come to see, the world is pretty big, right? We think it's pretty big, but there's only, I think it's like 190 countries.
Yeah.
In the scheme of everything, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
There was this. I don't know if you saw this was news recently. There was this lady. She lives in the United States now, but I think she's from Asia, and she just finished visiting the last country. She visited every single country in the world. She's like 70, almost 80 years old, and she just finished her last country. I think she went to Croatia. Was the last country. And they did like a whole big thing over there, like a party or something for her, because she's been traveling for a long time. And it's just what I saw an interview of her.
Croatia being saying, the last one seems weird since it's so landlocked. Like I feel like you would have hit Croatia, but whatever it means.
It might have been more because a lot of times you got to wait till, because sometimes like there's maybe some unrest going on.
Right,
so
yeah. The civil unrest always keep you out of a country.
Right,
civil unrest, that's dangerous.
And also, traveling that costs money. So sometimes you have to like plan for it, and sometimes you have things going on in your life. So
you're trying to go for longer than 7 weeks. Yeah. So.
We traveling and spending months in
taking 11-hour bus trips within the country. That's
I get. Shout out to Miguel for that. I can't.
What the good thing
so
about
to ask you a question, we're talking about traveling. What has been the favorite place that you have traveled to? That question for each one of you.
For beer or just in general?
In general.
My favorite place is Jamaica. That's the reason I've been back like 3 or 4 times. So
that's a place on my list. Very high on the list. Haven't been there yet.
Oh man, you gotta go. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Jamaica's nice.
And the people aren't as bad as it seems. Like sometimes they make Jamaica seem like they all aggressive.
You think they bad? I feel like they are aggressive, but they're very friendly.
They're friendly. Yeah. I think they're friendly. I'm just
the aggression is always you just gotta get past the aggression. Like they always mean well.
Yeah.
Mine was I went to London and I got to go to Wimbledon on the 4th of July. That was a really great experience. I got to see Serena and Venus play tennis that day. So that was
nice.
Probably one of my best out of country experiences.
Oh yeah.
I know where you went, Rob. I know yours.
Exactly.
There you go.
Bellissimo.
Yeah, Italy was my favorite place outside the country. I think Florence was probably I like Venice, but nowadays we were just having this conversation. I think Florence probably back in the day when the in the city canals didn't smell like sewage, it probably was amazing. But now they're kind of waste with that smell. But Florence is probably my favorite. The Tuscany, the Tuscan village, I guess countryside was nice as well. But I think Italy was one of my favorite journeys outside of the country. I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah.
The beer culture isn't super high. I think it's getting there. Like there's some craft breweries around. There's some local beers that are cool, but I think that was one of my favorite experiences outside of the U.S. for sure.
Yeah,
That's what's up.
cool.
Well, you were just talking about Italy. I'm just going to share a story from Italy. There's a good. They have some really good beer culture over there. It's not. Again, here we are so used to when we call beer culture here, we're so used to of the styles that we're seeing here right now. And the styles are hazy IPAs and things like that. But to understand, and all of y'all have gone to Europe, they were making shit when we were still not even a country. So their culture is way, 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 way more older than ours, right? So in Italy, usually think of Italy for the food and wine and things like that, but they have a lot of beers, and they have, some are really, really good, some are just okay. But there's I haven't been to that part where you went, Rob, to Tuscany or Florence. I haven't gone to that part. I've been more to Milan and outside of Milan. But there's a brewery there called Birrificio Italiano. And they're kind of like the OGs in Italy. They were open in 1996. So in 2 years, they're going to be 30 years old, just nothing. But for craft beer, they're one of the. So I'm sure you have heard of this style now that is very, is getting a lot of traction now. Italian Pilsners, right?
Yeah.
So they were the originators of that, the Italian Pilsner. So they have a beer called Tipo Pils, which is a type of Pils. That's what the name means. It's basically a dry hop Pilsner. So Agostino, who's the owner, he was the first brewer who did that, dry hopping a Pilsner. And that became the Italian Pilsner. So they were here. They're very good friends of mine now, but they were here this year in June. And they got together with a local brewery here in Brooklyn called Threes, which they also make really nice lagers. And they did a homage of that beer, of their Tipo Pils. And I just got it this week. So it's the same beer, or they changed a few things, and they added to this one. They added raw and malted spelt. And I had it a few days ago, and it was like, God damn, that beer is so good. But I went to visit them, and what you were asking me before, that if the beer tastes the same if I drink it here or at the place, I will tell you that having that beer fresh on draft at your place, that was a game changer. It was like, it's very different because it's fresh. It didn't travel all the way here. You don't know in what conditions. So that's an instance where I will say, it will definitely taste better at the place fresh, as it makes sense. That's any beer that you go and you try it fresh at the bar or at the brewery. Because when it's traveled and you don't know how it travels, that can affect the beer. How you store it and the conditions that they're in. If there's too hot or not in the proper refrigeration. So all those little things affect the beer at the end of the day. Do the normal, regular, run-of-the-mill consumer will notice it? Probably not. But if you're somebody who appreciates and know a little bit about the process, you will.
Right.
You will definitely see it.
All right. Any more questions for Miguel?
Yep, I got two.
I have no time limit, so I'm just letting you know if y'all want to stay here
these two questions can go for 2 minutes or can go for 2 hours. We never know.
I have plenty of beer and I have a fridge full of beer, so we're good. It's Sunday.
Why'd you cut your beer, Miguel? What's up with that?
Uh, you want the real answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have 2 daughters, and now they're getting older now. But when they were little, when I started my project, they were very little. And my youngest, one day, and this was, I'm gonna say 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, my beer was really long, right? And one day when I was here in New York, my daughter says to me that she had never seen my face without a beard, which is true because since she was born, I have always had some sort of a beard, long, short, but a beard. And I said, okay, yeah, you're right. You have never seen it. So what do you want me to do? And she said, I want you to shave it. I'm like, yeah, no, let's get to a compromise. I will shorten it if you want, and I will trim it, but I'm not gonna shave completely. Like I haven't shaved in I don't know how long. And so we got into an agreement. So I trimmed it. I trimmed it very short. It was almost like this long, all the way, right? Without telling her, like I just said. And I went to pick her up the next day in school. And I walk in, she comes out, she looks at me, she's like, I don't like it. And I was like, in my head, well, fuck you. Like, there's nothing you can do now. And I said, okay, well, I'm sorry. Now you're gonna have to wait a while for me to get that beard again. So that's the story.
That sounds like a typical kid. That sounds like a typical child. Do it.
But it was so honest. Like she just looked at me. It's like,
I don't like it.
I don't like it. Well,
grow
too
it
bad.
back, Daddy. Grow it back tomorrow, Daddy.
Said, you know what? I'm sorry.
I misspoke.
Yo, but it's funny if she was like, say she was like 1 or 2, and she was used to you with a beard. If you would have shaved that thing all the way off, she wouldn't have known who you were at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Funny you mentioned that because with my oldest, I remember it was not as long, but it was still very big, and I didn't shave it at all, so it was like very
all over the place.
Yeah. And we went to a wedding in Mexico. And as soon as I got off the plane, I just wanted to rip that shit off because it was so humid and so hot. Yeah, I was dying. I just wanted to rip it off. But the wedding was coming, so I knew that I was not going to keep that caveman look. So I was going to shave it completely. And I was about to do that, and my partner just said, you know what? You should probably bring Lola. That's the name of my oldest. You should probably bring her here because she's only known you like that. If you shave your beard, she's going to look at you and she's probably going to get scared. I was like, all right. Yeah. So I sat her down in the sink, and I gave her like the shaving foam, and I was just shaving in front of her. And then when I was done, I completely shaved, and she was looking at me. Like she was like a year and a half. So she was still very little. But yeah, she was like looking at me, and then I will pick her up and she will like touch me and look down, and we'll see all the hair in the sink, and yeah, she kind of like
I was like, what the
understood that something was happening. It was funny though because then I walked back to the area where all the guests were. They had seen me for 3 days with this long ass beard, and then I arrived all dressed up for the wedding and I'm with Magali, with my ex-partner, and you could see people like talking to each other like, who is she with? Like, what happened to the caveman dude? Then at some point, some friends came and like, everybody were asking like, who the fuck are you? And I said, well, you know who? Yeah, we know, but they don't. They thought Magali was having an affair with a dude. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yo, and that's disrespectful to her because she came there with you, and 3 days later,
right. Like, what kind of lady you think she is?
Well, you know how people are gonna be.
That's true. I don't know you. I assume the worst.
Sure. That is true. That's funny. What was your second question, Lou?
My second question is, you being from Venezuela, we know some guys from Tripping Animals down in Miami from Venezuela, but they also talk about the beer scene in Venezuela not being as good as they would like it to be. What do you think about the beer scene in your home country?
Well, I'm not going to venture into that because I know the guys from Tripping. They're very good friends. But I haven't been back to Venezuela in 11 years, so I can't speak about the beer culture there, because when I left, there was no beer culture. That was almost 30 years ago. And then whenever I will go back, I was not into like going and seeking beers out or anything. So in the last 11 years, I think that it's like everything, right? It's like changing. And nowadays, the good thing with technology and social media and the internet is like people now, they don't have to wait for months to get something. Like just go on the internet, Google, and they will get a recipe of a beer, or they can go into a website or a brewery, or just see on social media and you can just look at things, and people can email each other things. So the learning curve is much faster, and I think it's a very good thing. But it's still, people have to understand that, and this goes not only for Venezuela, but for all of Latin America. Again, going back to how we have so much luxuries and commodities here, you have to understand that people in Latin America, they don't have that. When it comes to, you have no idea how hard it is for them to get like just the basic ingredients like malts and hops and all like that. They always get whatever's in the bottom of the barrel, the shittiest, whatever is left of the malts and the hops, that's what they get. And the fact that they can make amazing beers with that to me is commendable. So not all of them, because people who have the money, they can pay for that. They can get better ingredients, but they never get like the freshest thing. That's just a fact, because I've been down there plenty. I have this conversation with the hop farmers saying, hey, how can we make this transition easier for the people down in Latin America? So, all these conversations I've had with them, but it's a matter of dollars and cents. At the end of the day, if somebody's willing to pay what you're asking for, they're going to get it. And the people who don't have it, hey, man, I'm sorry. So it's more a question of that, they don't have access to all the ingredients that breweries here in the United States, for example, have, or breweries in Europe, for example, because over there they don't grow hops, so all their hops, they have to come from the United States or Europe if they want to use like noble hops. There's only like a couple of countries in Latin America that are growing hops. Brazil is one of them, Argentina is one of them, but the industry, the infrastructure is not there, so the quality is not there. And of course, if the brewers want to compete, or they have to get the hops and the stuff from here, or the malts from Germany. So that's another conversation I have with people, especially in Latin America when I go there, is that I try for them to understand the value of this, and I tell them that, for example, I have no reason to go into Brazil or to Peru and have a hazy IPA. Like, there's no reason for that. Like, I don't understand. I understand that those beers sell a lot, so they can make money, they can profit. That's great. But there's no reason for me to go to Brazil and Peru and have a hazy IPA, because that's an American thing. That's a North American thing. And that's fine. And if you want to do that as a one-off thing, that's cool. But to base your whole production on that kind of beers, to me, that's just so sad. Because what I was saying earlier, that they have so much ingredients, so much fruit, so much things that only they have. And that's true for all of Latin America. They have so many unique ingredients that only them can get there. That's how they can separate themselves. So I always tell them, you want to compete with the Europeans, you want to compete with North America, then start doing your own shit. So one of the breweries I visited in Brazil, the farm that I was telling you, that was my favorite brewery in Brazil, for hands down. There were a couple, but this one in the farm for sure, because they brew beer, they also distill, they plant coffee, and they produce coffee, and they have a restaurant. So they use a lot of the ingredients they harvest in the farm. They use it for cooking. Some they use for the beers. And they do barrel aged stuff with ingredients that I have never heard before. And you try the beers and you're like, God damn, this is like world class shit. Like, you guys can sit down with the Europeans and the North Americans at the same table. And so some of them understand that part, but it takes time. And again, we go back to the only way to do that is with that 30-70% that I was telling you before. 30% is making the beer, 70% is educating your consumer, making them understand why are you making those beers differently than everybody else, and why you're choosing to work with local ingredients. So when people understand that and they can appreciate that, and that's when the switch is going to come. But for now, you go down there. I remember on that trip that I told you for the 11 countries, that's 5 years ago. And I remember every single country I went, everybody was making hazy IPAs. Everybody. And I remember the place that I was the more shocked was in the Czech Republic, because in my fairy tale mind, my idea was like, oh, I'm going to the Czech Republic. I'm going to have the best lagers. I'm just going to drink lagers all day. And one of the breweries, I was invited to go to Pilsner Urquell, which is like the originators of the Pilsner. And that was amazing experience. But they're a commercial brewery by now. Still, I'm not going to take anything away from them. They're still amazing. I love that experience, but I wanted to visit something local, something craft, something small. So I found a brewery and I go and visit them. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm going to have some really good craft Czech lagers. I was so excited. And I get there. It was a Sunday. So I didn't have much expectations, because in Europe, and weekends, people rest and, But I get there and I talk to the bartender and I tell her a little about my product. She's like, oh, the brewer's here. You want to talk to him? It's like, oh, shit, yeah, sure. So she gets the guy. The guy comes out. He asked the magic question, you want to go and take a tour? I'm like, absolutely. So it was a very small brewery. So he showed me, and like 5 minutes, it was done. And then he asked, you want to try some beer? Absolutely. So we go into the cold room, and from the bright tank, he's pouring the beer. And as soon as he started pouring that, I knew what was coming. I was like, oh, shit. And he pours this thing, hazy, orange juice looking, and he gives it to me. I was like, oh man. I asked him, what is that? He's like, oh, that's our new beer. I'm like, and what is it? It's a hazy IPA. I'm like, oh man. He's like, what, you don't like IPAs? I'm like, no, I don't like IPAs. Well, that's not my problem. I will drink it. I will try it. I'm already here. But I asked him that question, because that had already happened in every single country I went. So I asked him, I said, I want to ask you a question. Why are you making this beer? And his answer changed my whole view of it, and it made a lot of sense. So he said, well, maybe for you that you're coming from the United States, maybe this is boring for you. Like, this is mundane. This is normal. For me, that I live in this small city here, in this small village, this for me is innovation. I am sick and tired of Urquell and those kind of beers, because that's what I grew up with. That's what I learned how to make beer with. So I'm sick and tired of that shit. For me, this beer here is innovation. I can use different malts. I can use different hops. I can use different techniques of adding the hops. So this for me is creativity. And I was like, oh shit, okay. That make a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah,
that does.
Yeah. When you look at it at a different perspective, you definitely see like, oh, okay. Even though people still in America, we drink a lot of IPAs, but they don't get sick of them.
Yeah.
But again, we're still early in the craft beer game. In the grand scheme of things, it's like 40 years. So it's not been a huge process, but
but if you see that now, is that the United States, for some reason, good or bad, every country in the world looks this way to kind of see what's going on here. And that's not only in beer, that's with everything, with culture, with music. You go to every country now and, look at hip hop. That's kind of like a new thing here in this country, but in the rest of the world, that's like, holy shit. Everybody's like, oh, we want to adopt this kind of culture. And it's more than music. It's a cultural thing.
Right. Yeah. That's true. That's true. All right. Any more? Actually, now I got a question. Another question.
Well, they don't have to be questions. We can just have conversation. Just talk about things.
Yeah. Nah, you got a lot of information, though, Miguel. Come on.
but I'm curious to know, because you said it started like people were watching your personal Instagram, like, hey, you got too much beer on there, so you started the BeerTrekker account. So when do people just start saying, oh, we love your work, won't you come out and check out? Like, when do people start inviting you out, like, yo, we love what you're doing, come on out and check our site out?
So for the first 3 years that I started doing this, again, I started this as a hobby. So my two daughters, I was a stay-at-home dad full-time for the first 6 years. And I started this as a hobby. I just needed to do something creative to not go crazy at home all day with the girls. So every chance I will get, I would sneak a trip in there, go and visit some places, or even if we were out with family, try to go and visit a brewery or something, and started creating this like archive of images, just taking pictures. So for the first 3 years, I would just every brewery that I will visit, I would just give them the pictures for free. For me, it was a way of it's not really free. For me, it was a way of saying, all right, here are my pictures. The only thing I ask is that you give me credit. So they will have some really good content to use for their social media. They were giving me credit. So that was giving me some visibility. And I started to gain followers. And again, we're talking about the early days of Instagram. So I started to rack a good amount of followers, people who were interested. But because of what I was doing was different, and because back in the day, I don't know you remember, but everybody was just taking the same fucking pictures. So a glass, a bottle. There was no cans back then. So glass, bottle, glass, glass and bottle, and doing like reviews and things like that. I did it too. I did it too at the beginning because I wanted to share what I was drinking and sharing what I thought about the beer. But I also wanted to understand the whole process. So that's why I also worked at a few breweries here in New York City, because I also wanted to see on the other side, working on the other side of the beer to understand the process. I'm not a brewer, but I understand the process of brewing, and I have been around enough to know, to understand the process. But it was important for me to understand that part too, so I knew what I was talking about when I was saying something, to make it credible. So for the first 3 years, like I was saying, I was just giving out the pictures to people to use. And then in 2016, I remember that there was a brewer that I met in one of the festivals that I went, because that was, again, also a big part of creating and cultivating the relationships of the people I was meeting. So one of the brewers I met at the Extreme Beer Festival, y'all remember that festival in Boston? Extreme Beer Fest from Beer Advocate.
Yeah.
So I used to go a lot there because it was Boston. It was only like a 4-hour bus drive for me. I would go there and take pictures and just have pictures, meet people, and network. I was a big part of that network. So one of these brewers that I met there in 2016, he asked me one day, he reached out to me. He's like, hey, man, I need some pictures. Would you mind coming up here? He was they still are there. They're in Rhode Island. Would you mind coming here? I will pay you. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So I went up there, took some pictures, and that was like my first gig that I got paid. And then after that, I was like, okay, I understood that there was a need for what I was doing, and that my work had value. So from that day on, the switch clicked, and it was okay. Freebies are done. So now when people are like, oh man, you want to come here and take some pictures? We'll give you a four-pack. I was like, I will go, I will take pictures, but you will pay me. Not in beer, in money. Same way that you get paid in money, I want to get paid in money. So I started, doing that, and just try to be professional when you're doing your work, word of mouth. Then I finally, we were talking about that perfectionist part. I had my website part since 2013. I didn't put it live until 2018. Took me 5 years to just click that button and go go live. Just let it go. It's never going to be perfect. And once I did that, it was like, I started getting a lot of traction, people looking at it, and started putting a lot of content in there. And word of mouth. That's pretty much how it's have been. Word of mouth, through introductions, through intros of people that I have met. And then, just doing a good job, just go there, be professional, do what you need to do. I'm also people in the industry like to call me, especially the people who know me well now, call me a connector. Because for me, it's all about sharing information. There's no point of me knowing something and not sharing that information. It's not going to make me any smarter, any richer, just to keep that for me. Of course, you keep some of your trade tricks and stuff like that. But for the most part, I found that the more you share, that always comes back. you know,
Right.
and because I have shared so much information and knowledge and just connecting people, that comes back in some point. And sometimes people reach out to me, it's like, hey man, we heard from you from so and so, he's a good friend and he talked so much about you and we just want to blah blah blah. All right, cool. So that came back out of the blue, just without me asking. But remember that show, what was that show, Earl, uh, his name is Earl, something like that. He used to say something, do good things and good things will happen back to you.
Yeah. My cousin, my uncle Earl, or my cousin Earl or something.
My name is Earl. My name is Earl was the
Earl,
show. Yeah.
That's what. Right.
That sounds like some old shit.
It wasn't that old though. It was
You
that
think?
guy. It was that
came out
guy.
in the 2000s.
Oh shit.
It was that guy. Jim. I forgot his name.
I remember that.
That was his name.
Yo, Lou always making some shit up.
He was a very funny actor. Can't remember his name right now. He was in that movie with Will Smith, Enemy of the State. He was in that movie too.
I like that movie. Enemy of the State was good.
Yeah.
I don't know what
So remember the dude who was his friend that was in the bike that got the video game that he got killed?
Oh yeah.
That was the guy.
Early.
That was the guy from My Name is Earl.
Got hit by the bus or something.
Yeah. Ambulance.
Died on sight.
All right. All right. Any more questions for Miguel?
Nah, man, Miguel, you got a lot going on with you, man.
Right.
You got a lot of stuff. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Oh man, I appreciate y'all for the invitation.
Stories, man.
We want to thank
My younger brother, he moved earlier this year to Baltimore. So if I ever go and visit him, I'll let you know. Where are you guys in Maryland?
We're in Delaware, but we close.
We're in Delaware.
In Delaware.
Yeah.
So how far?
Baltimore is like
45
hour.
minutes.
Minutes to
an hour at the most.
So
that's one part of the states that I haven't visited yet, and I hear that there's a lot of breweries there.
Yeah,
we do have a pretty good amount of breweries.
Yeah, we were just talking about this.
Statewide.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other. Well, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. It's like we got a lot of breweries, but they're not as concentrated as on other places where ours are.
That's why I said statewide.
Locations for sure. But we got a couple out here that are doing.
I just visited Pittsburgh for the first time this year. I was invited there by Visit Pittsburgh, to visitpittsburgh.com. They do this event where they invite influencers. I take advantage of that, even though I'm not an influencer, but fuck it. You're going to pay for me to go there. I'll go.
They think you are. They definitely think you are.
But you get to meet a lot of people, and I was surprised of the amount of breweries out there, and good breweries. I think I told you that. I don't know if you ever contact that guy. I told you, Rob, when at CBC that guy was opening the first Black-owned distillery. It's this guy who has a pretty amazing story. He used to be in the Army, and he was also a pro football player. Now he opened his own distillery. Told you guys about that in Nashville?
Yeah, you did. I think I did.
So I have to connect you. I will send like an email because that guy has a super cool story, and he's doing something pretty unique there in Pittsburgh as well.
That's dope.
Connect us, connector.
Right. We're in Pittsburgh every year.
Yeah, we are.
That's where they do that festival there, right? Like Barrel and Flow. That's one festival I want to go, but every time it happens, I'm usually outside of the country. So it was the last one was not too long ago, right? This year.
Yeah, it was over the summer.
Yeah,
it's always
very wonderful humble brag.
It's always early August something. So I think they already put the date out for this. For next year. I think
it's like the second Saturday in
August 10th or 11th or something like that.
Yeah. I was leaving to Brazil for that one. Yeah. But that's one festival on my list
this year. Come out this year. The next year.
Next year. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a good time and definitely a unique beer festival for sure.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, I definitely gotta make sure I remember. I think I did reach out. If I think I remember correctly
I don't know if I got a response, but that's here and there.
Right, because the connector's here, so he'll get you connected.
Well, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody on that festival, so maybe y'all can connect me.
Yeah, that
Oh,
festival.
Yeah.
That
We could
festival.
we could reverse connect. We could reverse
Right.
connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to thank Miguel Rivas for
Yes,
coming
Miguel.
on again.
Thank you.
But before we go, we always like to know how people can find you on these worldwide webs, on these social medias. Like, how can they find more about what you're doing, your work? How can they invite you out? Like, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, the Instagram is easy. It's the BeerTrekker, and that's all my handles for all social media. I'm most active in Instagram, Facebook, and then my website is thebeertrekker.com. If you want to contact me through there, I have like the contact section of that where you can just email me directly there. Yeah, I'm always open and available for work, and thirst for curiosity is always there. Meeting new people, new places with good stories. Get them out there, share them.
All right, yo.
You can find me on IG at IM302YODA. Yep.
Why do they call you Yoda? I'm curious.
Don't be. Just don't worry about it. It's just a name that was given to me at birth. It was just a nickname that was given. That's all.
There's no story behind it.
Nah,
I'm sure there is a story. You don't want to tell it though.
There's definitely a story, but I'm not going to tell you. Okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
All right.
Robert's giggling ass. He wants to tell so bad. Look at him.
I don't even know the story, so I would love to know. I'm waiting. I'm just sitting here waiting. I'm gonna get robbed. I'm gonna get robbed by itself one day. He'll tell me.
No, I wouldn't tell your story if you don't want to tell it. I wouldn't do that to you, bro.
I could tell the story. It's fine because so when I was born, I had a it's actually a name for it. It's Mongolian something. I don't remember, but it was green, and some babies have it at birth, right? So mine was on my butt. So my butt was kind of green when I was a baby, and my aunt was in the Star Wars, and so my aunt seen that green birthmark on my butt, and she was like, "Oh, like Yoda." And so from there, they just been calling me Yoda because I had a green butt. So
well, look at that.
I just stayed with it. Everybody's always called me Yoda, so it's just ain't no point in just switching it up now. Unless I get like a corporate job or some shit and I gotta be like, I don't know, politician, and my name is Josh. But nah, other than that, nah. Everybody just calls me Yoda.
But you went all the way and just say Yoda. She didn't even say Baby Yoda.
Nope.
Just that's the thing now. Baby Yoda, right?
Right.
But back
so you could have been the originator.
Yeah, that is true. If she would have said Baby Yoda, I would have been the originator.
You would have patented that, and every time they say that, you get paid.
Yeah, you got your little dollar.
Damn it! They'd have been like, nah, because you took Yoda from us. Sorry. So,
y'all definitely been in court forever. Y'all back and forth. That's funny.
All right, Lou.
My name is Lou Belgium. I am on them Instagrams.
All right. And you can listen to the podcast on Instagram, Facebook. You can follow the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Bruising Banter Podcast. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts are going away, but you can listen to the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can, it is going away. I forgot by now because I think it's transferring over.
Outro.
They're transferring over to YouTube. They're throwing it off. But you can go to www.bruisingbanter and find out wherever we're playing. You can go that way. If you want to follow me, Rob G, there it is, Rob Stay Bruising. Bing, 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 bing. This has been, once again, I want to thank Miguel for coming on. This has been episode 228 of Bruising Banter Podcast. Until next time.
Happy birthday, Rob!
Happy birthday, Rob.
It's your birthday today?
Everyone.
Yesterday.
Oh, well, happy belated.
Thank you.
Let me know when the show is ready, so then I can.
Stay on.
I'm just feeling good. I'm just feeling grand. I've been through some shit, but
Who that, Jacquees?
Oh, it's Moni Mori.
Maury. Yeah, it definitely sounds like Jacquees though.